Yeah, Adam, I am the Jingle King. You know, uh, I'm not the Tiger King. I'm not, Joe Exotic. He doesn't want to be compared to me. I definitely don't want to be compared to him. So hopefully, this interview, I mean, that seems to be the topic of today. So hopefully, this interview isn't going to go there. Um, I'm the whistleblower. I'm the Jingle King, and uh, what can I tell you? My name is spelled, last name is spelled Avrech, Jeff Avrech, just for transparency. And I guess the reason, Adam, I'm telling you this is people can look on YouTube and they can see that in 2011, by putting my name, they can see that I had two songs that clearly related to extraterrestrials. You Got Go, 2011. I mentioned all three of the extraterrestrial spacecraft, Go, Go, and Go. And the reason why that's important is even though I was first started being followed in 1980, I didn't really, until 2011, I didn't put it out so that there's direct evidence or testimony, if you will. The U.S. Navy had a sighting that was shown on 60 Minutes, and it's a big deal nationwide. They saw, they named the first one in 2004. So they beat me to the first one where there's actual testimony, and that was called FLIR 1. But all three I named, as I just mentioned, in 2011. It wasn't until 2014 and 2015 that the U.S. Navy confirmed sightings of two other ones that they called Gimbal and Go Fast. So the military, particularly U.S. Navy and NSA, have been saying that they beat me to the punch. In a way, they beat me. I'll give them credit for the first one, but the other two, they're way out to lunch. I beat them by about 4 or 5 years. And this is important because when they had their sighting in 2015, their sighting showed coming down the eastern seaboard going south. They just followed it for quite a long time. Well, I happened to be in Massachusetts with my girlfriend Ashley at the time. She was finishing up a semester at Smith College. She was living in Amherst, and we had planned on a trip going south. And our trip actually followed the U.S. Navy. Now, I had been followed by these three extraterrestrials for a long, long time. I say since 1980. And Ashley also was picking up on this, and she was fairly devastated by it. But we had planned on a trip going to Westchester County in New York. She was finishing up this semester, and a couple things that were just unbelievable happened. Let me just grab a little water here. The first thing was she had been led to do a final paper on Richard Gere, and it having to do with his theater work and then moving into movies. And she just felt like these extraterrestrials had led her to do this thing. She didn't know why. So the last few days we watched Officer and a Gentleman and Pretty Woman. And the last night before we go on our trip to Westchester County, we watched American Gigolo. And she really pissed me off because she said at the end of the film, and this is the night before we're going to, I still hadn't booked a hotel yet. This is before we're going to spend a couple nights and 3 days at a hotel in Westchester County. She's saying she would pay him $1 to have sex with him. And I go, give me a break. So I said, I'm not going on the trip unless you pay me $2. That really pissed her off. But I said, I'm not going. So she was really called me every name in the book, but she agreed to do that. Anyway, so we go, and all along going down towards Westchester County from basically Amherst, Massachusetts, I've got these three these sounds coming to my head. I don't know if I still. She wrote it up here. I think here it is. I've got these sounds, and she wrote up the notes here. I don't know if you can see them here, but anyway, I kept running through this, do 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 something like that. And I hadn't come up with the lyrics, but as we're going south, I'm seeing these 3 extraterrestrials are following me. I've got this music going. And she said, well, you got to book a hotel. And I'm thinking, I've got these sounds. I know that there's a jingle there. Expedia doesn't seem to work. And Priceline doesn't seem to work. And then we see this sign that says, you know, instead of slowing down, watch your speed, it says, check your velocity. And I'm going, oh my gosh, how about Travelocity? And it worked perfectly with the notes. So, you know, eventually it was like, very soon, Travelocity, very soon, travel. And Travelocity just seemed to have this flow. So anyway, so that was wild in and of itself. And meanwhile, we're seeing these spacecraft that 3 of them that the Navy had followed all along. So we get to the hotel. I booked it on Travelocity. We're looking for a place with a great breakfast joint. So I find this place called the Bedford Post Inn. We go, you know, we check in. They have a great breakfast place called the Barn. So that's part of the reason. Expensive place. I mean, she would pick really expensive, but that was cool. But she had earned it, and I felt like I had earned it. So anyway, so we check in. We're going down the hallway, and I swear to God, I mean, I was so furious. There's pictures past the lobby of Richard Gere, and I'm going, you're not going to believe this, Ashley. And she starts, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. So I go back to the person who checked me in, and I go, why the heck are these Richard Gere photos doing here? And they said, well, he happens to own the property, and up until last year, he owned the hotel with Bedford Post Inn with his partners. And I'm going, oh my God, I could swear, why the F am I here? So anyway, but we have breakfast at this place, Barn, and we see relatives of hers in Westchester County, have a great time. The next morning, Sunday morning, we're at the Barn. Monday morning was probably the most unbelievable day of my life. I mean, if there haven't been enough coincidences so far, we're having breakfast. I told her before we check out, you owe me $2. And she gives it to me and says it's the worst $2 she ever spent in her life. And that made me feel great. Anyway, I'm listening to this conversation next to us. This guy's being interviewed. And he said, you know what? Yeah, I was called the Jingle King. And, you know, one of them, I'm sure the guy, I think his name was Roy or Ron, is interviewing him. He goes, you remember Weekends Are Made for Michelob? And I'm going, this guy wrote that. And then the guy says, you know, well, what about the Nationwide? He goes, yeah, I wrote that. Everybody today's 2020 still hears it. You know, Peyton Manning and what's his name? Brad Paisley. Nationwide is on your side. He said, I did that one too. At this point, I said, Ashley, I got to break into their conversation. So this is just wild. And I looked on, before I go up to their table, you know, I Google it. And it turns out the guy who wrote both of them, his name is Steve Carman. I go, I hate to break in, you guys, but is your name Steve Carman? And he goes, yeah. And I go, you know, I've been writing jingles and I've been followed by these, you know, extraterrestrials. I know you think I'm nuts, but I just wrote a Travelocity coming down here. And he says, well, do you have the notes to it? And I go, you know, do-do-do, do-do-do, do-do. And he goes, well, that's nice. You have any lyrics to it? And at this point, he's starting to shake a little bit. And I go, there is soon Travelocity. And he's starting to cry. And he tells Ron, you know, excuse me, Ron, what's your name? I told him, Jeff Avrech. I've been writing jingles. He said, when did you start writing jingles? I said, 1980. And he goes, that's insane, because that's when I stopped writing jingles. And he actually wrote from 68 to 80 these jingles, and then wrote this book, Who Killed the Jingles, because it all went from 1968 to 1980. That's exactly when I started. So he said, have you written anything more on this Travelocity one? And so I go, yeah, I got the whole thing. I mean, it's like 30 seconds. And he goes, well, do you mind singing? I go, well, you know, this is, you know, breakfast. I don't know if anybody wants. He said, just do it. And he said, Ron, or whatever the guy said, just bear with me. And I said, you know, on Andromeda Moon, I'll find a room for you and me. Well, I'll check it out with Velocity Online, my friend, I will very soon. Travelocity, oh, up, 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 on Andromeda moon, Travelocity. At this point, he's weeping. He says, Ron, could we, reschedule the rest of this for Wednesday? Because this is Monday morning. How about Wednesday at 11? I can't do any more of this interview. And he said, you said you started in 1980. I go, yeah. I told him I'll never forget. It was right before Jimmy Carter boycotted the Olympics in Russia. And he said, that's about exactly when the last one I ever did. And I was completely cut off. And he said, in my other book, which is he partnered with this guy, famous pop star Bobby Darin. And in page 8 of this book, he says that he was, followed by he didn't say he was followed by 3 extraterrestrials. He said there were these forces that were influencing him. He said he couldn't tell his parents because they already thought he was a loser for going in the music business. His brother became a famous doctor in the Jewish family. He said, I couldn't be, honest about it, but I was also followed by them. He said, I got to tell you, man, you were the new Jingles king. And I'll never forget that day as long as I live. That's it.
Wow.
It's just wild.
Cool. Is that the end?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. Cool. All right, we'll cut. We'll let Charles rejoin us. I'm going to